So I just turned some cows out, rotated them around. I've got a farm that the owner likes it to be hayed off in the springtime. When he was growing up, they had a lot of troubles with cuckleburs. I think they did soybeans on soybeans on soybeans for quite a few years, and his dad and him have worked hard to get it all cleaned up. So he likes it mowed every year. Um, and then he's gracious enough to let us put our cows on it once it grows back a little bit. And so when I was moving those cows in there on Monday, I got to thinking, what my dad kind of looks at me funny when I talk about rotating this time of year, mainly because he's been feeding hay for a month, and he just doesn't understand that we still have grass. But even the kid that works for me, he's like, why are we doing this? They're going to be in this field for 30 days. They're going to be in there. The grass isn't growing back. It's the dormant season, and what's the point? Why are we going to go in here and move them? So let's talk about it, because I do think it's important, and I think there's a lot of things I could be doing better on. I think I shot a video on you can shoot on somebody else's farm all you want, but I can shoot on my farm all day long. But sometimes all you can do is the best you can, and we're doing that, and we try to get a little better all the time, every year, and be pretty intentional about it. Hello, number 10. How are you? You want to be in the video? Yeah. The lighting's better over here too, isn't it, girl? So, why do we care about rotation? It's November. There's a lot of reasons. One, we're in fescue country. It's 70 degrees. The ground temperature is up above 50 degrees. We are not in an explosive growth time, but we are growing a little bit. So I'll even come out here in January, and if I've got enough residue covering the ground, you can open that up and you'll see green in there. That's fescue is one of the number one stockpile grasses in the world. It actually gets better after it freezes because it loses the endophyte that the cattle that make it one of the worst summer grasses in the world. And so everything's got pros and cons, and every area's got its own challenges, right? But it does do a little bit of growing, especially if you got some residue, something like this. I've even seen we've been pretty dry this fall. Most people would call it a drought, and even going back through the paddocks that I didn't think that were brown 2 weeks ago, they're just solid green now. So we are growing. So the number one thing we care about in our rotation is taking care of the ground and the livestock. So that particular field that I was on, that particular farm, I've got a bunch of fall calving first time heifers and first calf heifers. And so those are the hardest ones to get bred back and get them enough body condition to go through the winter. Everybody says if you're going to support an animal on the farm, it's got to be that first calf heifer trying to get bred back. Milk can still grow, and they're losing a set of teeth, and there's just an awful lot of challenges that particular time of life and that particular type of stock need, and so we want to support them as best we can. And so number one thing, we're not getting a second bite on that grass. Again, we want to leave some residue. So I don't like to see anything less than 4 to 6 inches. I like to have enough of a leaf that you've got a little solar panel next fall. Want to know that we're not damaging the root systems. And so we do this this time of year. We do a lot of what's called, in those types of scenarios that I'm talking about, strip grazing. And so you'll see this a lot with crop fields, hay fields, all these kinds of things. And it's basically the idea that you set up a fence from your water tank, and then you just move away from that every day. That way, because cattle, their demands on water and shade aren't as much. They're not, you could travel a little ways from water. Cattle have legs under them. I get worried about it in the spring. In the summertime, when it gets real hot, I don't like to make them travel too far because they drink so much and the water demands are so high. But in the wintertime, it's not as big a deal. Those cattle can walk a little ways. They can wait a little while. They're not near stressed for water. And so, it makes sense that you can have one good water tank, especially in a crop field where you're not having cattle on it any other time. You put in one water tank and then just strip off whatever you want. So that being said, with the fescue, like I'm talking about, having a back fence isn't a horrible idea, but I'm not super worried about it, especially in that scenario. Like I said, we're not going back on there. We're going to hay it in June next year, and it'll be fine. They're fertilizing it, and I'm just not, it's probably not going to hurt it too much. So then the other thing we think about is those young females. So the big thing and the big economical reason why you don't just want to turn those cows out on 40 acres and let them stay for 40 days is this. Figure this on 4 weeks. So we turn out into a paddock, we let the cows stay on 4 weeks. And this is true whether you're going 4 days, 4 weeks, 1 day, 1 hour, 4 months. This same cycle is true, and the shorter we can get that cycle, the better it's going to be for those females. And so one of the big epiphanies that I had to have was this. I was listening to a podcast one time, and an old dairyman said, look, you can, every time, anytime you stress a female that's milking, you're going to cut back that milk supply just a little bit. He said, you can always cut it back and slow it up. But he said, once you've cut it back, he said, you'll never add it on until that next calf. For that calf's life, it's that milk supply has been decreased. And so that's what I really want to pay attention to. So we've got good grass. It's good, solid green, high nutrition grass right now. Like I said, the endophyte's gone. It's good fescue. The protein's high. So what happens if in our 4-week scenario, you turn them out and you just let them have the run of the whole mill? The first week they're going to go in there and they are going to eat the cream of the crop. They're going to eat probably 8 to 10% of their body weight. They're just going to hog off everything. They're going to look great. They're going to feel great. They're going to gain weight. Everything is going to be wonderful that first week. And then we hit the second week. And now we've slowed up. We've cut back. We've ate the goodie out of the field. Those cattle are that's the only job they have in the world, is to go through and find the best bite of nutrition they can, and then go get a drink and then take a nap. That's all their lives are concerned about, and take care of that calf, after that. But so we just go ahead and assume that they have stripped all the ice cream out of that field. And then after that, they go through, and what you'll notice is that every plant that's still good, hasn't been pooped or urinated on, they're going to eat it. So all the clover is going to be gone. Second bite's going to be happening on that good high nutrition plants. And so if you got broom sedge, you're going to have a lot of that by the time you're going to really notice it by the 3rd week. So that 3rd week, all those high nutrition plants are gone. They're basically just, they're not gaining weight at this point. They might be maintaining for another few days. The cattle start to get stressed. You start to see them spread out. If you're in the growing season, you're definitely getting a second bite. You're damaging the plants. You're damaging your future production. They're going to overgraze all the plants that are fair, or that are really good, and you're going to be left with all the junk. And so week 3 is when you start to see an issue, and then week 4, it's bad. You have definitely damaged the milk supply. The cattle are stressed. They're losing weight. You'll see them hang up by the water tank a lot more. And then when they do go out to graze, they'll be spread out all over the place. They won't be grazing in a mob, in a group. They won't be getting excited about any new plants. The manure will change. You'll start to have taller, bigger buildup. The rumen gut biome is starting to change at that point, I believe. And you're starting to really stress those animals out. And so that's what we want to prevent. So the best thing for those animals would be to move them, every 15 minutes. I've heard of people moving them every 15 minutes. Well, that's not practical for me and my operation and the things that I have going on. And, for most of us, it's not. If you have a bunch of cows and some help, it would be good. Once daily, probably ideal. In the growing season here in Missouri, you're getting a second bite after 3 to 4 days. So I like to move those cows at least every 3 to 4 days to keep them from getting that second bite. Practicality for me right now, with all the stuff I've got going on, the time and travel between herds, trying to, get the fence lines cleaned up and all those other things that are important, moving once a week is kind of where I'm at. And then I just move a different herd every day. If you have more permanent fencing like we have on this wonderful farm, all you have to do is open a gate. So I move them faster. I don't, this time of year, again, the grass isn't growing. So I could be subdividing these fields because we don't have as many shade needs. Like this field doesn't have any shade in it in the morning. And as it cools down, this is a good opportunity for me to be able to strip graze this. But practicality wise, we're moving this bunch, I think, every 4 days, 3 to 4 days. In those bigger fields, like I said, we're going to move them about once a week. And we're probably not going to worry about a back fence on that farm I was talking about earlier. Again, it's a hay field. I don't think that they're going to overgraze it as far as being able to hurt the root system on those plants too much in a month, as long as it's dry. Now, if I notice that there's an issue, I can always stick a back fence in. But the water situation is, they're going to be moving on to another water tank, another, a different section. They're not going to spend a bunch of time making a loblolly in one spot, the manure distribution. They're gonna want to move on to the next section, and spend time in there. So if I see an issue, I can fix it. But that's the main thing that I'm really looking for. As far as the other thing I'm thinking about, parasites. This time of year, parasites are a big issue, and if you're not following your rest program, 45 days I think is a minimum on sheep. I like to see 60 or 90 if I can. But where that's a hay field, not a big deal. We're not coming back in there. They're not eating their own parasites. Now, I'm assuming cows and sheep are pretty similar. They'll start to pass those parasites after 7 days, but the parasites live and hatch and do all those things in the regrowth. So normally they'll hang out, and you get the big infestations if you go in. Like if you're in there in January with your sheep, and then you come back in the spring, and that grass is growing, those parasites are going up, and those sheep are eating them back down. That's not as big a deal on what we're talking about. As far as like cows, cows aren't as big. Parasites aren't as big a deal on cows. As me, we kind of select that for that. If they're not performing, we'll get rid of them. But where this paddock, we'll probably be in this pasture here on this farm 3 to 4 times a year. Is kind of what I'm shooting for. And so, as long as we're following those rest periods, we're getting rid of a lot of those parasites. That's a big reason why I believe in rotationally grazing. It's not going to help with your lice, but your ground worms and take all those internal parasites that the cattle that are passed through the manure come back up through the grass, and the cows re-ingest. We want to try to give enough rest to eliminate those and keep a as low a manageable load, I guess. That helps us to not have to use wormers, and we select for cattle that can't handle that, get rid of them. And I really haven't seen too many issues after 4 or 5 years of selection. We still have a little bit of a lice problem. I hear it takes about 10 years to really work that out. But last year on this farm, we did. It's not too bad. If you get rid of the bad ones, then you can move things along pretty well. Select your replacements out of your best cows, and you can move along pretty quick. But those are the reasons that I like to go through, and I like to continue my rotation in the fall. Even in a scenario where it's just going to be 30 days, if you can break that up into weekly or bi-weekly moves at least, you're still going to keep the highs and the lows, keep that milk flow going. Cows' peak lactation needs are coming in around 3 to 4 months after having that calf. So a big nutritional need is basically a month before that cow calves. You need to have her in body condition 5, and then if you did that, then she's building up lactation. They're lactating for 3 months, and then after that, you're not handling a dry cow, but that calf is going to be getting a lot more from pasture, or if you're creep feeding or whatever, they're going to be getting a lot more nutrition on their own than they're going to be getting from that cow. Her nutritional demands decrease quite a bit. And then when you wean that calf, of course, she's basically a dry cow. Her nutrition demands go down quite a bit until a month before. You want to make sure you've got them pushed hard and body condition 5 by calving. It's kind of what I've always heard to keep things going and in sync. That being said, if you can manage it, you can get away with more with the dry cow. We're not abusing them, but we're, that moving them a little slower, you're not messing with the milk flow when you have those high highs and those low lows. I don't know. It's just, to me, it seems like it's better for the animals and different things. The more often I can move them, probably the better I'm doing for the ground and the livestock. But I do realize it's practical. I could be doing a better job. But those are the things I'm thinking about this time of year, making sure we're maintaining that body condition, that milking ability, hopefully on an increasing plane of nutrition in the winter to get that body fat on, especially for these younger females. We want to be taking care of them, keeping them away from their parasites if you're running back over the same ground again. And, it's just in not cutting that grass too short. Not getting that, not damaging the root system, leaving a little bit of leaf and energy for that plant to absorb and come back in the spring. Those are the things I'm really thinking about. So you guys let me know if you have any questions, thoughts, comments. I sure appreciate your time, and appreciate you subscribe, and following for more. Thanks.